Okay, this is student feedback. The point of this is to use a quote and put it in a paragraph. Okay, so the media reflects public life and helps shape our perceptions of it, and this is from There Is No Such Thing as a Free Press by Hume in 2012. Let's look at how the quote is being used. Hume argues, rather than the media controlling the news, it reflects public life and helps shape our recognition of it. Okay, let's see how this works. As part of the British Democratic Society, the public and the press have the right to free will and the freedom of expression. Okay. Well, I'm not sure what the British Democratic Society is. Why don't we just put in the UK? That's simple. Okay, the public and the press have the right to free will. Okay, the press doesn't have free will, individuals have free will, and it's not a right to free will, you just have it or you don't. In the UK, the public has the right to freedom of expression. Well, we've got a slight problem here already. The public and the press. If we look at the title of this book, there is no such thing as a free press, so there is limited freedom of expression. So anyway, let's ignore that for now and carry on. With these ideologies, it is assumed that the public has the right to read and believe what they want to. Okay, what ideologies? Not sure what ideologies we mean here. Is the right to free will an ideology? Is the freedom of expression an ideology? Let's just try here. It is assumed that the public has the right to read what they want to. Okay, that's better. Have they got the right to believe what they want to? Is it possible to enforce that right? If you've got mind readers, perhaps, but no, we'll leave that as it is. Okay, this suggests that the media does not fully determine what is in the news. Well, if the media don't, who do? Okay, well, maybe indirectly the public decides what they want to read. Okay, so Hume argues that the media controlling news, rather than the media controlling the news, it reflects public life. Okay, so the argument here that Hume's putting forward is that the media reflects public life, it doesn't create the news. Okay, it doesn't fully determine what's in the news. Okay, let's try to rejig this. Hume argues rather than the media creating public life through its control of the news, of what goes in the news, reflects public life and helps shape our perceptions of it. That's maybe a bit better. So to put our reference in here, we put the author, the title and the page. We need the page to look it up. So we'll put 100 for the sake of argument. Some of the public some of the public has the right to read what they want to. Now, this does not follow. This does not suggest the media does not fully determine what's in the news. The news must reflect what is happening in the real world. Okay. The news must is not arbitrary. It reflects can't repeat it. The news is not arbitrary. It reflects what is happening in society. It is influenced by and reflects what's happening in society. Okay. Meaning that although the media may publish the dominant hegemonic view of society, it doesn't publish that view. It's heavily influenced by that view. That's the argument. It's only doing so because it is what society is portraying. Is society portraying something? Not sure. Although the media may often reflect we're using reflect too much. Okay. I'm not sure this is the case really. Anyway, let's leave that just for now. Just to note here that this is written for a reader who's got good general knowledge but limited specialist knowledge. So if we wanted to use hegemonic, we should explain what we meant by that to the reader. So instead we can say very quickly that what that means, the dominant or hegemonic, we can say that the hegemonic means the dominant view. So here we go again. The media merely reflects and shapes our perceptions. Okay. It helps to shape our perceptions. That's very different from shapes our perceptions. And this isn't a good quote. That's the real quote, otherwise it's hiding it. And again, if you used it, you put Hume 2010, page 100. Therefore, media ownership, okay. So we've got that far. Now we've got, therefore, media ownership is an influence on journalism, however not necessarily a decisive one, because the public are what creates the initial ideas and the news itself. Well, the problem is we've got the public, we've got the dominant ideas, which we assume probably come from the elite maybe. Then we've got the idea of the public. Then we've got the idea of public life. And the difficulty is, we've got the media. It's not really clear what their relationship is. So media ownership is an influence on journalism, and the dominant ideas are an influence on journalism. Maybe media ownership the media owners strongly reflect the dominant ideas. This therefore here is the problem, because it doesn't logically follow that the media is just reflecting what society is portraying, and that society means the public. Events are not the same as public life. There are two different things. There are news and what the public thinks. Alright, so let's come back to that in a minute. what we're going to do is put it all together. Let's just look at the final paragraph. So, final sentence. So we've got News International and owners such as Murdoch. Well, News International is capitalised because that's the proper name. And owners such as Murdoch. Okay. Merely retell what is being discussed in society. Well, that's not true, is it? The argument in this quote is they shape our perceptions and they reflect it, but reflecting is not merely retelling what is already being discussed. They've got their own point of view, they are their own people. The media is a secondary platform of what the public has already created. Well, here we're mixing up the public, the dominant view, the journalists, the media. It's quite confused. What we're going to do is just copy the bits that I've done and see if we can finish it off. So, in the UK, just going to pause this while I do this. Okay, I've rejigged what we've got. Let's go through it. In the UK, the public and the press have the right to freedom of expression. Right, okay, so let's try, it is assumed. Generally assumed that the public and the press have the right to freedom of expression, and the public has the right to read what they want to. Okay. Hume argues that rather than the media creating public life through its control of what goes in the news, it reflects public life and helps to shape our perceptions of it. Okay, so our paragraph has to make our point at the beginning. The idea is it's our argument, our point. And so to start with, we want the first sentence of each paragraph should, generally speaking, make the point that we want to make. So the point that we want to make seems to be that you can't blame the media for the ideas in society, or at least it's not accurate to say that the media creates public life. I think that's the argument being put here. The summary is that the bit at the end is, therefore media ownership is an influence on journalism. It's not necessarily a decisive one. Okay, so maybe this is what we want. Maybe this is our point. So let's try this. Media ownership influences journalism. However, this influence is not decisive because media takes into account its own professional outlook, public reaction, and the views of the elite. So media ownership influences journalism. However, this influence is not decisive because the media takes into account its own professional outlook. So maybe that's our initial point, and then we can use a quote to support it. So what's this got to do with the point? Well, nothing really. It's a very general, vague idea that was the right to freedom of expression that's counteracted by the title of the book. So we're going to just delete this. Hume argues that rather than the media creating public life through its... Right, okay. while it is often considered that the media has an overwhelming influence on the creation of public life through its control of the world news, Hume argues that rather it reflects public life and helps shape our perceptions of it. The news is not arbitrary. The news, right, is not arbitrary. Right, it's not just made up. So we've got the news is not arbitrary, and we've got that reflects the dominant or hegemonic view. Okay. So the news is not arbitrary. It is influenced by and reflects what is happening in society. Although the media reflects, often reflects the dominant or hegemonic view, reflects dominant or hegemonic views of society. And this is a repeat, we're going to just delete this. Right, this is a repeat of the quote already, so forget that. Though the media often reflects dominant or hegemonic views of society and of media owners, this is part of its role to discuss what is being discussed in society. The media is not decisive in public life, but of the shaping of that life. Something like that. It's not perfect at all. Let's go through it. Media ownership influences journalism. However, this influence is not decisive because the media and journalists take into account their own professional outlook, public reaction, and the views of the elite. While it's often considered that the media is an overwhelming influence on the creation of public life through its control of what goes in the news, Hume argues that rather it reflects public life and helps shape our perceptions of it. The news is not arbitrary. It is influenced by and reflects what is happening in society. Although the media often reflects dominant or hegemonic views of society and views and those of media owners, this is part of its role to discuss what is being discussed in society. The media is not in control of public life, but part of the shaping of that life. I'm not particularly happy with this paragraph, or the points that are being made, but generally speaking, it does what a paragraph is supposed to do. It makes the point. It uses the quote in support of the point, and then at the end it discusses that point, discusses the quote, or tries to expand on it, tries to explain the quote in some ways. Okay, what we're going to do is the end reference. So we've got to learn how to do references. So boop, boop, boop. This is at the end, you put references. You got Hume 2012, it's M. Dot. There is no such thing as a free press. And then this is by Civitas in London. There is a subtitle to this. Something like that. Boof, 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 boof. And that's the feedback. Thank you.